Howdy howdy, Sudevil here. In this video we're going to talk about campaign strategy as the dwarfs. It's more geared towards players that are new to the dwarf faction campaign or someone who's just beginning in Warhammer. It's not going to have all the details of how to use your tools, your tool tips or your maps or everything else like that. It's really based on or focused on overall campaign strategic goals and how you can effectively start off your campaign and do really well. The first thing that I want to point out is how you go about picking the provinces you want to conquer in the very beginning, because it's really key to setting off or setting the foundation for the rest of your campaign. And I've opened up this map which shows the wealth of each province that you have, so you can get an idea of where that wealth is and where you can make the most money, because money is incredibly important in this game. And if you have a strong economy, you can have strong armies, and it lets you basically do whatever you want to do. Now, the most valuable place on the entire map is here in Rib Peaks. Up here is really valuable too in the northern world edge mountains, but you're not going to get that until the end. When you start, you're going to start on the Silver Road, crack 8 peaks, and it can be generate some wealth, but the very first province you're going to try and take is Death Pass, and it generates a very good income at 3,600, and then you're definitely going to go up to Rib Peaks and take Mount Gunbad. It is one of the wealthiest provinces in the game. And you're also going to want to take the Blood River Valley, because it allows you to trade through this ocean port to everywhere else that's connected to the ocean. When we look at the strategic considerations, there are other very good reasons to go and take these provinces that I talked about. First of all, besides Black Crag having a gold mine, and a key building in here is in Iron Rock. So if we go and look, this building here, the Arsenal, allows you to recruit units with a lot more experience, +3 experience for miners and dwarf warriors, and at a reduced rate. So this is the province where you're going to set up and recruit all of your infantry, and that's going to allow you to protect your whole southern flank. So Iron Rock is key. You get that building and get the province, you'll have a lot of ability to generate money. Plus you have the advantage of setting up an army in Iron Rock, in that you can use the underway and get over to Black Crag to defend it if you need to, and you can run over to Barag Dawasbag, I guess, to defend it as well. So this is a really strong province in terms of generating gold. It's very defensible, and it allows you to recruit very solid infantry units. Now if we go up to the second province you're going to want to take, we'll take a look at Mount Gunbad. And the reason it generates so much money is not just because of this gold mine, but because of this building here, this Brightstone mine. It generates 1,500 gold per turn, and it increases your increase from trade, but it also allows you to recruit artillery units with +6 experience, which is really good when you look at the ability to use your Thane to give you an additional +3 experience. You can recruit artillery with +9 chevrons, which is going to be fantastic, and this is the place where you're going to recruit your artillery. If we go down here, we have another building, I believe, is it in Vranka Hills? No, right here. And this powder hall, aside from in Dockgrass, aside from having in Barakvar this port which allows you to trade with any nation that is along the river as long as you can see them, you have this building right here. Your black powder upgrades are all, when you recruit black powder units, are -20% for all those units to recruit, and +3 experience. So again, those chevrons really do add up. So ultimately, aside from generating good income in all three of these provinces, they have the three key things to recruit your army, to make your army that much more powerful. You can get all your infantry here, all your black powder units here, and up here you can get your artillery. And aside from having good income and great units, it also allows you to have a very compact set of provinces with which to jump off if you're going to go south, or you're going to fight the vampire counts, or you're going to be ready for chaos. And one of the advantages of that is it allows you to control your grudges very easily. This isn't a really big consideration. It just can be a pain when your leadership is -4, public order -2, and your relations with dwarf realms is -10 if you get up here, and it's easy to lose control of your grudges. But if you have a compact set of territories, you can very easily manage that. One of the other nice things you can do is, once you have control of these provinces, if you don't have an agent that can go and find other factions to make trade agreements, you just stick a dwarf on a boat and you sail him all the way around the world, and you'll get a lot of extra trade agreements, which will really help your overall income. Now that we know the best provinces to go after, let's take a look at your technology tree, because this is something you can also use to supercharge how effective you're going to be throughout the entire campaign. And the dwarf technology tree is pretty big. It's bigger than anybody else's. It's awesome. It's really fun. And you can go down the wrong paths extremely easily if you're not thinking carefully about how you're going to choose the techs that you go for. The way of the guilds is all really financial and trade and public order and these types of things. This is good to leave for much later in the game. Even if you look at the possibility of getting plus 10% income from settlements, when you're starting out the game, that 10% is not going to equal to a whole lot of gold. If you compare that to getting militia training, where your dwarf warriors and miners are going to have +5 melee attack and +5 melee defense, that's going to affect your entire army and all of your settlements when they have to defend against raiders. So when we look at the way to tackle this, is you really want to upgrade your military so you can be a lot more effective early, and then later in the game you can start going down these trees, depending on what you want. There's not a whole lot of ways to go wrong on here. I mean, if the first ones I would get up here are the dwarf treasuries, once you get all these taken care of. And it's worth noting is that going much past here into these ones is really going to start reducing the value, because it takes an additional turn. It takes 3 turns to get this, 4 turns to get this, 5 turns, 6, 7, 8, and their relative value stays about the same, so it becomes a lot less of an effective use of your research strategy to research deep into here, rather than a whole bunch into the 3, 4, and 5 slots. So when we go down here, your settlements will always start with miners and dwarf warriors, and we want to get our foot infantry off to a great start. So we always go to militia training first, and then we'll continue down here, getting dwarven resolve, and then interlocking shields. And this gives +5 armor to all your dwarfs with shields, and an additional +5 melee defense to all your dwarfs with shields. Once I've got my interlocking shield, that counts for all the units that are going to be in my settlements and in my early army. I will then go to Call to the Clan and get that +2 unit experience, so that I can start recruiting units that have an additional 4 stat points into my army. Then I'll go down and start improving my missile infantry by going to level missile warriors and into masterwork crossbows, because this is going to give your quarrelers plus 10% damage, and you're going to use a lot of quarrelers early. They're very effective against the greenskins, especially the savage orcs, so you're going to want that. As soon as you've got your masterworks, you're going to go down, get your ammunition wagons, and then volley fire, which is your reload time is plus 15%. I mean, it's basically 15% more damage per second, which is fantastic. And then finally, you can go for Renowned Deadeyes and Superior Black Powder whenever you like. Basically, once you've got this all set up and your army is significantly more effective, then you'll come up to the Way of the Guilds. And depending on how your campaign goes, you may want to improve your relations with other factions. You may want to go down here and improve your public order, or think about reducing vampiric or chaos corruption or these types of things. But always start up here. Make your armies better, because that'll make your campaign significantly easier to manage if you're winning a lot more battles, and the battles you are winning, you're winning by that much more, and you're able to defend your settlements that much more capably. Now, when we look at skilling up our lords, this is another critical element of making your early armies really effective. It's easy to be pulled in by these abilities because they look great, they're fantastic, and it's awesome to have a lord who's really tough, and you're going to be facing Grimgore Ironhide a lot, and he's a really tough melee lord, and he's going to give you a few beatdowns. But where you really want to start is going down this Inspiring Presence line, particularly to get Axe Lord, because when you get the 3rd level of Axe Lord, all your Dwarf Warriors and Miners have plus 12 melee attack and plus 12 melee defense, which makes them way more powerful and way more effective, so you can really affect your entire army. You'll want to get Route Marcher in there somewhere for sure. That campaign movement range is very useful, but you really do need to get that Axe Lord early. And then the very next one you go for is Obstinacy, which reduces your vigor loss. Now, this may not seem that important, but if you know some of the numbers behind how the game works, it becomes a lot more important, because this affects your entire army. And the way vigor loss works is when your unit is exhausted, they only make use of 65% of their melee defense and 65% of their armor, and your ranged units only shoot 65% as fast. The other way around, you use 80% of your melee attack, and your charge bonus is only 85%. It affects the dwarves a lot more than any other faction, because when you're in a long fight with, say, savage orcs, they don't even have any armor, so they don't have very good melee defense, so they don't lose a lot of combat effectiveness in those long engagements. But your dwarfs can lose as much as 50% of their combat effectiveness if they're exhausted, so it's very meaningful. So we'll go down, grab Axe Lord first, then Obstinacy. You'll have Route Marcher in there somewhere, depending. Generally you can leave this to a little bit later, and then it's time to decide where to go from there. Often I'll then get Tactician, because it makes your missile units a lot better, adding missile damage and ammunition, and then, only then, will I start going up here. And to make your lord better, I always use Thorgrim instead of Ungrim, because he is a much better lord, especially for the campaign. But if you really like Ungrim and you like that cool Slayer King, you might want to go down that way. But when we're getting Thorgrim, he has very, very good melee defense at 60. So we'll get full plate armor, which you have to get, and then we'll go get Scarred Veteran. And that gives him 30% extra hit points, which really makes even better use of his high melee defense and high armor. And then generally I will get 1 point into hard to hit, and then consider going up here. Now, High King, worth noting, it is never worth getting, because it only becomes effective if Thorgrim is getting beat down hard or he dies. So don't be drawn into taking that. The Rune of Grimnir may be useful, that 10% missile resistance, but I'll go up here and grab Foe Seeker and continue up. When I'm ready to get Longbeards, I will come back down in this line, and I'll get Grimnir's Heirs, and that gives you plus 12 melee attack and melee defense for your Longbeards, Hammers, and Ironbreakers and Slayers, which is fantastic. Otherwise, I'll continue up here getting my Blade Shield, melee defense, or Blade Master to make him a little more do a little more damage, and I will go and get my deadly onslaught because that can be a very nice ability. I won't ever go down this line. I'll never go past Route Marcher because these abilities just don't have very much value. There are some that are pretty neat, and you may want to have a lord that's going to go control your towns and put mason on him so you can reduce your construction costs or something like that. Or you may want someone to get Purebeard to help with vampiric and chaos corruption, but that won't be on your main lords, the lords that control your armies. You're going to want to go down this line and set up your army so it can be optimal, maximally effective. Get your Route Marcher and then go up this line depending on how you want to set it up. Ancestral Grudge, never worth getting. The greenskins are not going to be the only armies you fight. Resolute, your charge bonus is not that great, and you're not going to use it that much. Hard to say. I don't think it's ever worth getting. When you get up here, these quest abilities or quest armor and stuff is awesome. So you always want to get them as soon as possible. And you only have 30 points to put in, so depending on where you end up, you'll want to make your lord tougher and tougher. But really, that's the key. Early on, Inspiring Presence, and then Axe Lord. Get it? Your army will be way better. And then Obstinacy. From there, you can take Tactician, have Route Marcher, and then finally go up this line, starting with Scarred Veteran, and go from there however you like. One thing that I do want to mention is that as you're controlling your provinces, depending on your level of experience, controlling these abilities can really make a big difference in how effective you are. Early on in the game, you want to use a lot of growth, and also you want to use this Masters of Steel and Stone. And if we take a look here, and we'll go into this, the next building I have here is worth 9,000. And early on the game, you really want to save money, but if I go and change this from my tax rate to this, go through my end turn, and sorry for the little bit here, but you go through the end. I'm going to get through the end turn, but you save a ton of money on your buildings, and you also save money on anything you're recruiting, and you have one more recruitment slot, which helps you recruit your armies that much faster. It's a very important ability to make heavy use of, especially early in the game, to make sure you maximize your growth and you minimize the costs you have to running your faction. It can be extremely beneficial to do it that way. And you consider, lots of people consider the cost of their armies only in terms of their upkeep, but if we look, saving that 5% over and over and over again are going to make a big difference. And now this building that was 9,000 is only 8,100. There's 900 gold. We'll be able to save that right away. And if I want to recruit someone here, it's going to be 5% less for that recruiting. So it really is an important ability to make use of when you're managing your provinces. And I know that's for everyone, but I think it's worth saying because I've seen a lot of playthroughs without a lot of management of these abilities. You rarely ever want to be on this public order one. If you're on the public order one, you're probably doing something else wrong, or you just need to put it for one turn to avoid an uprising or something like that. But really, and you want to save your tax rate, you don't want to use that until you're making a lot more money in your provinces. You really want to stay on growth all the time in the early game, and then when you need to build anything, if you see your buildings pop up, don't do it right away. Change this over, wait one turn, and then do it. And then as soon as you've got your building started, you just go in and get your building going, come back here and change it back to growth, and it's that easy. Now, two hero characters I want to talk about specifically are your Runesmith and your Thane. And you get your Thane from getting to level 3 in this building series. So you want to kind of rush up to get to that level 3 so you can get your very first Thane and start putting him to work. Now, your Runesmith and your Thane, you really don't want to put them into your armies. You don't need to, and B, they're very effective in other ways, especially your first one. Your second and third Thanes you can configure in a different way, but what we want to use this Thane for, if we go up and look at this guy, is you want to make him run him down this blue line so we can reduce your recruitment cost. This first Thane is the Thane that's going to make your armies better. You go down this line. I put one into Patrol Ambusher, but I go down Inspirational, get minus 15% recruitment cost. Now with the minus 5% from changing your province's setting, plus the minus 20% in saving whether you're recruiting artillery or infantry, depending on the province you're in, you're starting to save almost 50% on your recruitment costs, and you can think of that in terms of having more money for your buildings. The key ability that you want is right here, Exemplar, and that gives you plus 3 experience for all of the recruits you have in the province where your Thane is. What you can use that for is if you look at the buildings where you start with plus 3 recruiting experience for your miners and dwarf warriors, plus your tech tree where you get another plus 2, you add this plus 3 from your Thane, and you're going to be pumping out units that start with plus 8 experience. With your artillery, they're going to start with plus 9 experience. With your thunderers, they're going to start with plus 8 experience. And that is going to make all of your armies hugely more effective. So it's very much worth it to get this Thane down this ability line first. And then you might want to put him on Drill Master, and then you can stick him in your army and they will get more experience as you go. But your very first Thane, that's what you want to do, and just drag him around to where you're going to be recruiting. He can move really fast. Otherwise, a lot of times a good use for a Thane is if you don't have vision into some part of your land, I'll just park my Thane right here, and so he can give the benefit when I'm recruiting out of Iron Rock, and he'll give me vision into what's going on over here or over here. And the same thing with the Runesmith. I might park my Runesmith here so he can give me vision this way, or I might park him in my Runesmith over here depending on what I'm doing. Now your Runesmith, you can get him early, and again, this is not going to be someone that you're putting in your army.
His will binds me to you.
What I do with my Runesmith, the very first one, after that, I mean, he has a lot of good abilities and could be great in an army, especially against the vampires. But your very first Runesmith, you want to use him to make your entire faction better. And the way you do that is go through, and the very first thing you're going to get is this Stalwart rune, which gives you plus 36 growth. As soon as you have that leveled up, you go to work and deploy him in a province, and that province will grow very fast, which allows you to get to those higher tier buildings. The one thing I do want to say about your Thane and your Rune Priest is, as far as leveling them up, the way to do it is to just take them to the closest enemy faction, the building, you know, maybe the closest one here would be Stone Mine Tower, and just start attacking it until you've got leveled up enough to bring him back and start using him. It's the best way to do it because you generally have between a 45 and 55% chance of success, and you won't die very often, which can be a real pain in the butt when your character's gone for 4 or 5 or 6 turns. Now, when you get to your Master Engineer, you're going to want to build him out of Barak Var by going up into this building series. I believe he comes, no, here. And the reason is this is where you're going to recruit your black powder units. So you'll get him out of here to match those black powder units. Now, using your Master Engineer, really, it's up to you. He tends to come later on in the game anyways. He can be good for quite a number of things. You can really do a number on towns and stuff like that. But the two key characters you want to think about are your Thane and your Runesmith. Those are the most important ones. I'm going to do a quick discussion about the very first few turns, because this is going to be relatively repeatable, and this can really supercharge your campaign. What you want to do right off the get, depending on the difficulty level you're in, if you're on easy, normal, or hard, you can do this in 2 turns, and if you're on very hard or legendary, it will take 3 turns because you have to recruit on your first turn. Basically, you want to take on your very first turn and attack Nashrak, and we'll just go on. I don't know if I can auto-resolve through this, but go through, attack Nashrak. Generally you want to run that battle by hand, and I'll just go and add the few things here.
Retake the realm.
So I want to get Inspiring Presence, okay, and you want to attack him again, not the town, because every battle is going to give you experience. If you attack him and then the town, you'll get double the experience. So we'll go attack him, and I don't know if I'll win that. Okay, I won it. Normally I wouldn't do that like that, obviously. And then he's got, oh, he doesn't have a level, but then we'll go and attack that town.
I declare war on them.
And what that helps you do is it gets you off to a quick start. And the reason we're going to go through and do this is
For the Karazhan Corps.
we want to get
Lord
the
Dawi
fastest
have been
start
put to work
possible.
fixing up the captured city.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that note.
What?
So we'll continue down our Axe Lord. And you get to hear, and normally I would have more troops. I'm just going through this, but we'll recruit 3 Dwarf Warriors. And just I'll end turn without, we'll get 3 Dwarf Warriors, and we'll continue on down this path. And this is just the first turns to get you going. So we want to take Mount Squighorn.
Grimnir's axe thirsts.
And loot and occupy it rather. And now we have this first province.
Aye.
So what we're going to do, we'll level him up through Axe Lord. What we're going to do is to set our province on construction cost reduction first. Okay.
Ready?
I will recruit 3 more Dwarf
Very
Warriors.
well.
And we'll end our turn again, and as soon as this turn's over, we can start building. Now this guy's coming up, which is unfortunate. We got guys coming up here, which is a pain in the butt. That's just fine though. So we're going to take Thorgrim, and now he's already got 3 into Axe Lord, which means your guys have a ton more stats, and we're going to immediately
the runes
go into
are
the
cast.
underway and get up to this quest battle so we can get our rune priest. And we'll go here and actually recruit a lord. Now, that's a really good one actually, minus 15% for all buildings, but we'll recruit a lord,
Let us begin.
put him in here, and now we can recruit, I would recruit 4 miners just to reduce your cost. But what he's going to do is just help you defend while Thorgrim goes up here and does this quest battle. That quest battle is going to give you your rune smith right away. He'll show up in Karaz-a-Karak, and you can take your rune smith and come down this way to get good vision on what's coming down here. And you can take your second army, and normally I would have built my quarrelers by now, my second level of quarrelers in here, and get your second army just a half stack, maybe 8 guys in it, maybe 9, just to go and defend your flanks from these little half armies, which can be a real pain in the butt. And that will allow you to manage anything coming up down here. It'll give you a little vision on that, and you can defend from Karaz-a-Karak quite easily because you can get your all the troops that are in there to help defend, and it'll help you defend Mount Squighorn. He can go back and forth from the Pillars of Grungni. And the advantage of having him here is basically you're going to take Thorgrim, finish this quest battle, come back immediately to Mount Squighorn, he can come give Thorgrim his troops, and Thorgrim will have a full stack to continue on down to Karag Drawn and Iron Rock down here. And once you've got your full stack down here, you can see what's going on over here, but you can go over and take Black Crag as soon as possible. And then once you have that province, you just kind of let this play out as it may. Now, the one thing I just do want to quickly add is a quick discussion on Confederation. And it's something I think you got to be careful of. You don't want to build up your faction too big too fast, because it becomes really hard to control. But if there is one faction you do want to confederate with, it's here at Barakvar. And the reason is that generally they're going, depending on how it goes, sometimes they're going to get wiped out and you can just go take it over. But this has that port, and it's going to allow you to trade. As soon as you got the port, send your dwarf on a boat and send them all around to meet everybody, and you can really supercharge your trade. Basically, as soon as you have that battle done, you have your half stack here to defend here and kind of come around and see what's going on. You have a full stack here. As soon as you've got Black Crag and you're in Iron Rock, that's when you're going to work towards making your second half stack into a full stack and bringing him up to Mount Gunbad to take this, and then Grom Peak if it's available. Sometimes it won't be, depending if Zifbar comes up and takes it, but that is basically your first few turns and how you can set up for the rest of the game. Now, it always starts to play out a lot differently once you get your full stack down here. Sometimes you'll have a wall right away and it may be more or less difficult. Sometimes you can take Black Crag really quickly. Sometimes it takes a few turns depending on how the dwarfs over here are doing. And that's the beauty of this game and the replayability of it. It's always going to be different, but these first few turns always going to be the same. A couple key things is, if you don't go and get this runesmith right away, often because things start happening, big armies start coming in, you might not get him till turn 25. So might as well get him on turn 5 and or turn 4 even, and start putting to work on turn 5. Then you can use him to get extra vision, which is really beneficial to see what's coming up here. And then when you got your second full stack going up and taking Mount Gunmed, you have both the gold mines and the ability to make a ton of money, and that really does set off your campaign. Anyways, I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you later.